Cyberpunk Edgerunners is out on Netflix, an anime series set in the world of the video game Cyberpunk 2077. Not a direct adaptation, but a separate story taking place at roughly the same time in the same city. 10 episodes, 25 minutes each, made by Studio Trigger, quite famous in the anime industry. The story follows David, a 19-year-old kid living together with his mom in Night City. Despite difficulties with making ends meet, his mom somehow is able to pay for a good school that belongs to the Arasaka Corporation and sends David there. But he always feels out of place at the school. He's more in tune with the sort of lower level street life. One day, his entire life is flipped over and he basically loses everything. In exchange, just gaining an implant that allows him to achieve super speed for short bursts of time. He begins using it by running together with a crew of mercenaries, doing various illegal jobs around the city. But as he progresses inside this world of the city's underbelly, his crew gets the attention of the corporations, and even more crucially, using the implant begins to take its toll on the physical and especially the mental side of David, who tries to stave off the so-called cyberpsychosis and stay sane. So after last year's Arcane, which was based on League of Legends, this is another surprisingly excellent adaptation of a video game property. It's brutal, it's adult, it's well written, beautifully drawn and animated with the oversaturated colors and neon-drenched city coupled with crisp action sequences, and just a great piece of storytelling all around. I think it helps that it isn't like Arcane, it isn't adapting the game's storyline directly, which I think is always a problem with video game adaptations, but rather tells a separate story of its own, a story tailored to be watched rather than played through. Players will recognize some of the background characters, many of the locations, things like weapons, items, even interface with things like phone calls. So it's a world that is familiar, but the story is very much its own thing. Furthermore, it does a thing which I enjoy regardless of the setting, but I think it fits the Cyberpunk one especially well, which is that the story presented isn't the be-all, end-all of the world that it takes place in. It's not a story about a great hero saving the world. When it ends, it's not like everyone knows David's name. It's not. The things that are happening to him are not the most important things happening in the city at the time. It's just one of the myriad stories to the myriad people that happen to take place in this world. And by doing that and keeping the stakes relatively low, it manages to feel both human and real and believable, but also heartbreakingly tragic. The show is not afraid of killing off characters when it serves the story, often in very shocking ways. And it's a cautionary tale at heart. I think you can draw parallels to many of the classic gangster movies with the rise and subsequent fall of the main character. This particular one being, of course, set firmly in the dystopian cyberpunk future. I also think it draws a lot from the grandfather of the genre, William Gibson's Neuromancer trilogy, in all the proper ways. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a story with a clear beginning, middle, and end. And as it's unfolding, you can kind of see where it's going to end. It's like an unstoppable train going off the cliff. I tend to enjoy that a lot as well. More than endless shows, which always have the stinger for the next season and the next and the next, and don't know where to finish. It really is very, very good. I recommend it wholeheartedly, especially to fans of either anime, video games, science fiction, and of course Cyberpunk specifically. But I do think that it manages to be at that special level where even if you're not an everyday fan of one of those things, you may still very much enjoy it.